Jim Weiss, great to have you here as we celebrate TCM's 30th birthday. Thanks so much.
Oh, it's great to be back, Dave. Thanks for having me.
You had a job that sounded really cool to me. Vice President of PR for TCM from 93 to 98. And what I find interesting is that besides helping to spread the word about TCM when it launched, you're also partially, if not entirely, responsible for Robert Osborne becoming the first host of TCM, right?
I had a small role in that, Dave, a small role.
How?
So I'm one of just a couple of people on the planet to have worked for the two great classic movie channels, because I started at American Movie Classics. And part of my role at both networks was to get press for and then travel with some of the great Hollywood stars that we work with promoting the channel. And I mean, I got to work with, and I'm going to name drop here.
Please.
Debbie Reynolds, Shirley Jones, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Omar Sharif, Geraldine Fitzgerald, Cesar Romero, Tony Curtis, Esther Williams, and Dorothy Lamour, among other people. And then we were bringing Dorothy to New York for AMC in 1991. And she had one request. She said, Jim, I'm happy to do this date for you. All I want you to do is set up dinner for me at 21 with Robert Osborne. And I knew who Robert Osborne was. He was the esteemed columnist for the Hollywood Reporter.
Yep.
He was hosting movies, I think, on the Movie Channel on the weekend. And so no email or cell phone. So I typed him a letter and put it on AMC letterhead and mailed it off to the Hollywood Reporter in New York. And I waited. And I don't know, if a few days later, a week later, I answer the phone, Jim Weiss. Hi, Jim, this is Robert Osborne. And, oh, hi, Mr. Osborne, how are you doing? And we put the dinner together. It was just one of those incredible, magical nights. It was just so much fun. It was Brad Siegel, who had played a big part in leading TCM, but he was head of programming and originals for AMC at the time. Oh. It's Brad and his wife, me and my then wife, and Robert Osborne and Dorothy Lamour. And it was just it was just one of those really special nights for everybody. And when we were leaving, I remember getting Dorothy into her car and saying, I'll see you tomorrow. We have some press to do. And then Brad and I said goodnight to Bob Osborne. And I don't know why I remember, but I always remember him walking up 51st Street because he lived around the corner from the restaurant. And I turned to Brad and I said, we got to work with him. We got to get him. So when we came to Turner and then TCM, we were developing that. And so we looked at everything, the look, the feel, the music, the intros, the outro, everything. And should there be a host? Yes, as we all agree to.
Thank you for that, Jim.
And then who should it be? And so Brad said, why don't you give Bob Osborne a call and see? And, certainly he was interested. And then the rest is history. And credit to Bob. It was so great to see him become so popular on TCM. He was the best. I think Robert Osborne was born to host Turner Classic Movies. I was just a cog in the system. It was his destiny to be here. And you guys are keeping the tradition on in spectacular fashion.
Right. I also was fascinated to learn that the launch date of April 14th, 1994 was your idea. Explain why that date was important.
Well, all we knew is that we were launching a classic movie network in the spring of 94. So as the PR guy, I'm looking for a hook. One day I saw this day in movie history, April 14th, 1894, the first public exhibition of a motion picture in Times Square, New York City, the first movie theater. And, I thought, that's it. I mean, that's great. I mean, because I never thought we were launching a basic cable network. I thought we were launching a movie theater. I mean, TCM is the greatest movie theater ever. You just don't physically walk into it.
Right.
And these days you watch it on your TV, your phone, your tablet, everything. And I thought there was perfect symmetry in that. So when I presented that to the senior team of people that we were developing and working on TCM every day, they said, that's great. And we had to make sure it worked and for operations and the satellite folks. And it was a Thursday, if I recall. So it was a day of the week. And so, I guess I helped pick the birthday at TCM.
Well, you and I are going to talk more about the specifics of that launch day after we watch the movie that you've selected, which is The In-Laws from 1979, starring Peter Falk and Alan Arkin. Just tell everybody why this movie is so meaningful to you.
Well, I was in college in the early 80s. I went to Cortland State in upstate New York. Go Red Dragons. And my friend Mark Danzo and I, we rented the movie. I think there was some beer involved with that rental, Dave. And we watched it once, we watched it twice, we watched it over and over again. Of course, we start doing the lines, serpentine, serpentine.
Yes.
And then we started calling each other by the character names. Peter Falk plays Vince Ricardo. a CIA agent that you don't know if he's going nuts or not. And then Alan Arkin is a buttoned-up dentist from New Jersey, Sheldon Shelley Cornpet.
Yeah.
So we were calling each other Vince and Shelley, but then Sheldon Shelley Shell is used 82 times in the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Because I counted. So Vince went away and we just started calling each other Shelley, Shell. And then over time, a group of friends loved the movie and we started calling each other Shelley, Shell, Sheldon. And to this day, we have a group of about 10 guys. We're known as the Shelleys.
Oh.
And whenever we get together for, in any increment, we don't use real names. It's Sheldon, what hole are we on? Shell, can you get me a beer? Shell, what time's your flight tomorrow? So you don't ever hear real names. It's Sheldon, Shelley, Shell. And so.
Well, it's a great comedy that you can watch over and over again, which is why I'm glad you chose it. Let's watch it right now. From 1979, here are Peter Falk and Alan Arkin, Shelley, in The In-Laws. And I'm back with Jim Weiss, original vice president of PR for Turner Classic Movies at the launch of the channel. Jim, Arthur Hiller, the director of The In-Laws, was at the launch event in Times Square on April 14th, 1994. So you got to meet the guy who directed your favorite movie? What happened?
I did. So we wanted to, Hollywood stamp of approval on launching TCM, and Arthur Hiller was the head of the Motion Picture Academy at the time. So he came in and I had to brief him before. He had a speaking role in Times Square that day and talking about the importance of exhibition of motion pictures, and he gave us some love for TCM. And, as a PR guy and having worked with the stars and celebrities and actors and athletes and executives I've worked with, I never crossed a line into fandom. I did that day.
You had to.
I had to, but it's funny, Dave, because after he was all briefed and ready, he said, thank you. I said, I have to tell you, and I told him the story about me and my friends and the lines from the movie and the Shelleys and everything like that. And he couldn't have been nicer about it, but I don't think it really mattered that much.
He wasn't that impressed?
No.
Oh, man.
And it reminded me why you don't ever cross into fandom when you're doing your job. He was lovely about it, but
he'd heard it before?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I don't know.
What do you remember about that launch event? Did it go as planned? Were there glitches? What sticks out?
Well, it was a massive event. It was before Times Square was electrified, and there was just one jumbotron in Times Square underneath where the ball drops, and that's where I envisioned turning TCM on, tying into the history of movies and the first movie theater opening 100 years to the day earlier. I remember there was a couple times my career flashed before my eyes that day. I'll tell you one story. Right as Ted Turner was introduced to go turn on TCM, we had a Voice of God introducing him, and our guests, we had a bunch of classic stars there. Of course, Bob Osborne was there, and Mr. Hiller. And so Ted is introduced, and he's got to go up a couple of steps to the stage before he throws the switch and says a few things. So he's walking past me and my bosses, and he said, Turner Movie Classics, right?
Oh, no.
And so I see my career flashing before my eyes. And so I took a couple of steps with him, and I'm right in his left ear, and I said, Turner Classic Movies, TCM, as he steps up onto the stage. And so when he got to the first reference, the name of the channel, he said, I'm so excited to turn on and launch Turner. And he paused for probably was just 1 second, but seemed to be like weeks while I was waiting for him to finish.
Turner Classic Movies.
Of course, he's Ted Turner. He's going to get the name of the service right. He named the channel, by the way.
Any other great memory with a big star that sticks out?
We did a lot of work with Esther Williams, and we had a screening with her at the Breakers Hotel on a Friday night. It was an evening with Esther Williams, and Bob Osborne was there as the host. And she had actually filmed one of her movies in the Breakers pool years earlier. So it was a Friday night, and I had my family there for the weekend. So Saturday morning, we go down to the pool, and Esther and her husband, Ed, who was a great guy, their flight back to LA wasn't till later in the day. So they were down at the pool. And so Esther came up to us, and we're making some small talk. And I had my little girls, who were probably less than 2 then. And she said, give me those babies. And she grabbed the 2 girls and off she went. She was gone for a while. She came back. So my daughters went swimming with Esther Williams.
Oh, wow. How wonderful.
And then with Tony Curtis did a lot of work for TCM. And we were doing a screening of one of our originals in LA at Chasen's, the legendary nightclub where the Hollywood elite partied. And so Tony came in and with his wife, and Tom Karsh, who was the GM of TCM, we were buddies with Tony, so we greeted him at the car, and we walked into Chasen's. And as we're walking into the main nightclub area, he grabbed us both by the arms and locked us in, and he said, "Come with me, boys." And as we're walking into Chasen's, he said, "See over there, that was Cary Grant's booth." He said, "Jimmy Stewart sat right there." And we're getting a tour of Chasen's in its heyday from Tony Curtis.
That's special.
It was great.
You can't ask for anything better than that.
No, I've been very fortunate and blessed to have a lot of stories from those great Hollywood legends. Really, really great stuff.
That's great. Well, Jim, it's been great to meet you and to hear your stories about the early days of TCM. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, stick around because another TCM veteran will be joining me to talk about another great classic film from 1945 starring Barbara Stanwyck. Stick around.
Next on TCM, Christmas in Connecticut, then Breakfast for Two, and later, The Bride Walks Out. TCM's on for better or worse.